need from Scott in months.
I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:02. First order of business is,
Turn your
if I
phones
got
off.
the agenda, approval of the minutes.
And the minutes you have on the dais for this second meeting are the ones that you're going to approve. There were a few minor grammatical changes made after open house.
We're talking about the Tuesday one, not the, yeah,
So-
never mind.
You want a minute to read the new ones, or are we going to just approve it as is?
Adding taking an A out or putting an A in or changing a little A.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to, do we need to do both sets at the same time, or do we need to do them individually?
You can do them both at the same time.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for September 11th and September 12th as is.
I'd like to second that.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept the minutes from the 11th and 12th as is. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes. Appearance of interested citizens. Oh, there they are. So I got
Daryl.
Daryl.
And these gentlemen just came in.
Oh, Daryl Richardson. You're up.
Front and center.
Unless you don't want to talk to us right now. You want to talk to us about something else later on in the agenda?
Well, we're talking about smoking in the car. Can we do that?
Yeah?
Okay.
Well, not now.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can.
go ahead now.
In his interest, you bet.
Just switch it.
Okay, we're switching it. Go ahead.
Okay. My name's Joe Richardson. I live on Rivercrest Drive. I'm a concerned citizen about smoking in the park. Especially the park that I live next door, which is Sunset Park. I would like to see something on the agenda about smoking in Sunset Park, because I live right next door and I smell the smoke. Guys go down there and smoke cigars, and it gets kind of old after a while. I also maintain the park, and I'm running over cigarette butts constantly, which they don't go away. Excuse me. Can he smoke it, in Kaiser Rapids Park?
You can smoke in all the parks if the smoking ban has been lifted, has it been?
Except the Little League fields.
Except a little.
But there was a ban for a while in the parks,
Only for fire.
right?
And how does that work?
Stuff caught on fire.
People still smoked.
Well, you could smoke in designated areas, like in the parking lot or inside your car.
Okay, I'm just wondering, can we put a designated area down at Sunset Park, if that's the case, or make Sunset Park a pilot, park where there's no smoking? And, 'cause we have a lot of trees around the area, a lot of dry brush, and it's very dangerous. And I don't wanna see my house or any of the neighbors' houses go up in flames because somebody threw a cigarette down. Now, can you smoke at the amphitheater? I mean, when there's a performance going on?
No, we don't let people smoke in there because it irritates people when they're sitting that close.
Okay.
But I think they can leave and go to their car and smoke. I don't know.
Well, I cleaned up down there with the last concert. The mayor and myself, there was so many cigarette butts down there on the first seat. I couldn't believe it. I've heard people complain about cigarette smoking down there after the fact. I wish they'd complain how we was there, we could do something about it, but that's just one of the cases. And can you smoke in the big toy?
No.
I think it's
There's no
posted in the big toy, isn't it?
It is posted, and also we had wood chips in there, so that would be a fire hazard.
Well, you don't have wood chips now.
Well,
There's a
no.
whole stack of wood chips out there.
Okay, but my point is, I just like to see a ban on smoking, especially at Sunset Park.
One of my concerns is what happened at Kaiser Rapids Park. I mean, if the fire department wouldn't have got there when they did, we probably would have lost a lot of trees out there. And they got there real quick to control that. But if you didn't see just how bad that was, you should go look at it.
But that wasn't from smoking, that was
We don't
campfire.
know.
I don't know.
Do you know?
Nope, we don't know. It was never confirmed.
That is a place where the homeless camp in that area.
But it was also closed to smoking at that point. I mean, that was, our fire danger signs were already up. So that didn't stop it. I mean, you can't keep people from doing what they're gonna do, but you can ask them to.
So there's like, no alcohol in the parks either, that doesn't keep people from drinking.
That's right.
That just gives a person, kind of a legal right to say, hey, there's no smoking in the park, you know, a private citizen, myself, because I'm there all the time. My wife is very allergic to cigarette smoke, and that's one reason I'm fighting the issue. So I would like to see put a ban on cigarette smoke, basically in Sunset.
David?
I got a quick question. Do you ever go and ask the people that are smoking to stop smoking or to leave the park yourself?
I have,
What kind of response do you get?
well, they say there's no signs, and then when there was a ban on smoking, I caught a guy down there smoking, and I said, hey, you know, there's no smoking in the park. Oh, I'm sorry, and he left, because there was a note up there on the gate. And the difference is, I don't know, or anybody knows, if somebody's smoking marijuana down there or a cigarette. You know, you're a little ways away, you can't really tell. And marijuana is not legal in public, so it's kind of hard to say who's smoking what. And that's why I would like to see, and we have a lot of kids come down, and I just like to see somebody do something about it. I've been to this meeting before, I've been to city council, and it just doesn't seem like you get across that
Matt wants got the phone there.
not everybody wants to be around cigarette smoke.
So Daryl, my question would be, what would your recommended enforcement be?
Well, it's the same as alcohol.
Well, no, it's not.
That's up to the city.
Because you're dealing, well, because it's not illegal to smoke, it's illegal in some areas to drink in public. So you're talking about something that's effectively kind of a controlled substance in terms of alcohol in public versus something that's not. I mean, pretty much if you're in the public, it's accepted that you can smoke, whereas you can't, well, actually in Kaiser, I think you can walk down the street with an open container, but you're generally not supposed to. My question is, what would your proposed enforcement be? Well, and the reason I ask this is because we have we have an increase in car thefts and things being broken into in people's vehicles and homes and things of that nature. So are we wanting to leverage the time of police officers going to enforce non-smoking in parks when we're having such an increase in other issues in the city?
No, I don't think that's the issue. I don't think, just like I'll go back to alcohol. Nobody's supposed to drink in the park.
You're absolutely right in the parks, you're right.
Okay, and people do, but if somebody's there and they don't like it, they can say something.
Well, I can tell you, having been at Kaiser Rapids many times after hours, dealing with stuff with the Kaiser Homegrown Theater, we have been called on many times because we're there after hours, and the first thing they ask us is if we're down there drinking. And so in those circumstances, they do it because alcohol in the parks is, I don't know if it's a crime, but I know it's not allowed. I don't know, was it considered a crime? It was. Okay, so they do show up. You know, there's not a threshold right now for that for smoking, so I'm asking if you're wanting that on the same threshold in terms of a reportable offense.
Well,
Because my point is, it's a lot of time and a lot of staff resources in order to get there. Look, I'm gonna tell you right now, I hate smoking. I find it deplorable. I don't want to be anywhere near it. But when does my civil liberty trump somebody else's, and when does personal responsibility come into play?
That's a good point. The point that I'm trying to make is I've got right also, just like you said, and my right is not to choose to smoke, and why don't we smoke in here? Why don't we smoke in airplanes?
It's banned in public. It's banned in public buildings by the state law.
And park's a public place. It's an open area, but it's a public place. And if you go to a restaurant or a bar, they have a designated smoking area. And that's, well, it should be in the park that people have to smoke. But I've been there 39 years next door to that park. I've maintained it for over 35 years.
Right.
And if I see somebody down there doing something wrong, I go down and I
Correct them. Yeah. And
And right now, Shirley and I, or some of the neighbors, haven't called the police in a long time since we put the sprinkler system in. Because it comes on at different times, and that really helps get the people out of there.
Oops, sorry.
Gets them out of there.
Yeah, it does, and it works, and,
I think my point is, what it boils down to is, you have the opportunity to talk to the individuals, and in most scenarios, they're going to be responsive and be respectful of your wishes. If not, then you have the option to walk away. You're a little bit different because you live there. But the people that are going to choose to break the rules are going to break the rules regardless of what the signs are. And again, where it comes back to is enforcement. Are you recommending that we ask for additional city resources that are already spread too thin in some areas to divert from one need to another? I think it's a struggle. And trust me, I'm 100% with you. But again, my civil liberties don't trump somebody else's. And they're a public open space. In buildings, it's a different thing. You know, you have to be at least, I think, 25 or 10 or 25 feet away from, 30 feet, whatever it is, away from the door of a public building to smoke. You know, and that's, you know, the parking lot is 30 feet. That's still public property. So it's kind of one of those things. It's a hard sell. I don't know. Like I said, I appreciate 100% where you're coming from on that. I'm asking what your recommendation is. How do we fix it? Do we post no smoking signs, knowing that most people are going to ignore it, they choose to ignore it, and how do we enforce that?
well, if you have a sign up there, it's gonna be, you know, no smoking in the park.
Right.
And, you know, we'll have several signs up. I'll even pay for the signs.
Well, because the people that aren't supposed to be smoking marijuana in the parks are doing it anyways because they don't care.
But, yes, but if there's a sign up, no smoking, most of the people are going to abide by that sign, just like no alcohol or no barbecuing.
7% may not smoke with your
Right.
signs up, yeah.
Right.
And there is a ban on smoking in the park. If you read the pivot things, like next to, we've got a sign that says what's prohibited in Sunset Park or any other park, no smoking on the trails.
On the trails, right?
And we don't have trails down there to speak of, so it's just, that I'd like to see somebody stand up and say, hey, let's get this done.
Daryl, going back to the alcohol you were talking about, I noticed at Kaiser Rapids Park, because I look at the garbage all the time. I'm not a garbage guy, but I look at the garbage.
He goes
all
for the
time.
cans.
I am amazed at how many beer cans and stuff are in there. Now, for some reason, we don't see a lot of cigarettes down there. But that doesn't mean that there's some places there is cigarettes, but it's not too bad there. And people sometimes respect where they are. They clean things up. Just like with the concerts, we don't have to do much cleaning. People pick up their stuff. We make things available, and I've always been shocked at that some. But they do drink beer, and it's usually when you have parties down there, or if they have a picnic or stuff like that. When they get done, they bring the beer in free and throw them away.
Yeah, well, the concert JFK, it was a mess when we went down there to clean up. Lots of cigarette butts, lots of hard bottles of booze, and I was really surprised. And Kathy was there, and Tom Shue, and we cleaned that place up
You were asked questions, so that's okay. Mr. Taylor.
Well, you know, this has been brought up before, and we've never sent anything to city council, and I've talked with people on council, and they said, well, we've never had anything sent to us. You know, Matt, you talked about enforcement. That's really beyond our scope. I think our scope is to look at whether it's, whether we want to allow people to smoke and cause fire hazard, cause trash, bother other people. You know, everybody has civil liberties, and one of the civil liberties when you go to a park is hopefully to have fresh air. You can't smoke in state parks, you can't smoke in county parks, you can't smoke in City of Salem parks. We seem to be the only place around, and I don't know about a lot of the smaller cities, that you can smoke. I think that if we had a rule said no smoking in the parks, like Clint said, 70% of the people are going to go by that. You know, we're not going to be vigilantes and out there, but if there is a rule that says you can't smoke in the park, at least Robert could go down there and say there's no smoking in the park, and people are going to say, oh, thank you, I didn't know, or whatever, most of the time. And after a while, it will be known by everybody that you can't smoke in the park, and there won't be very much of it. Now, I don't know what the percentage of smokers of the population is. I think it's less than 20%, I'm sure. And so we're talking about a minority of people that have gotten used to not smoking in a lot of public places because they know. Now, so with all that said, I would like to make a motion that we forward to City Council a recommendation that there's no smoking in Kaiser City parks.
I'll second it.
The motion has been made and seconded that we recommend to the city council there's no smoking in the city parks. Is there any discussion? Yes, Donna.
Thank you. Seems like we were more successful in setting aside a place for smokers to smoke, and I think that they respected it, that we gave them an opportunity to do whatever they do in a properly assigned place. That seemed to be something that works out better than just the no smoking signs, because then people will sneak around and smoke wherever they like. So my thought is that we recommend that we set aside a place to smoke that is safe for people to do so, rather than just banning it, because I think if you ban it, you're going to have people who are going to smoke wherever they like. If you set aside a place, they're going to, more than likely, people will respect that and go to that place.
Yes, Matt.
So Donna, I had the exact same thought process because I think it went well during the Eclipse event, and I think that's what you're referring to specifically. The challenge is then whose side of the street, north or south, east or west, at sunset, gets the designated smoking area closest to them? Where do we do it at Claggett? Where do we do it at Bob Newton? I'm not in favor of a ban because I don't think that at this time we need to be spending the time and resources to be making signs and figuring it out and going through all this. I think instead we focus more on awareness, ban when appropriate, especially during high fire risk. But instead of asking the city to come down hard with an unenforceable resolution, expect people to take a little bit more personal responsibility. And when people decide, hold on, Daryl, hold on. When people come up and Daryl says, hey, you know what, I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't smoke so close to my house, they're adult enough to say, you know what, I'm sorry. And start working with our neighbors rather than asking the long arm of the city government to come down and hammer on them. That's just kind of my feelings on it.
So,
Because again, I'm going to tell you, I don't like smoking. I don't let my mother in the house if she's smoked. That's a fact. I'll call her right now and put her on the phone. all right? The grandmother of my children is not allowed in my home if she's smoked within an hour of coming to my house, all right? But that's my choice, that's my property. So I'm 100% with you, but we're talking about,
I'm sorry, Matt, but you're not.
well, I'm not going to support, you have an unenforceable ban that you're asking for. Other than a sign that's going to do the exact same thing that is done at Kaiser Rapids. The people that are going to choose to ignore that sign are going to continue to ignore it.
But there's a sign there saying, no smoking in the,
There's a sign that says a 65-mile-an-hour speed limit too.
yeah, it's pretty cut and dry. If there's a sign there, people are gonna respect the sign. If I walk up to somebody.
Most will, you're right, most will. But the 30% that don't are going to be your offenders regardless of whether there's a sign or not.
Okay, well, thank you for.
That's just my opinion. You got all these other people up here. That's just my own personal opinion.
Oh, yes, but you're on the board and that, your vote means a lot. So,
I'm one vote.
well, that's exactly right.
I'm one.
And I'm a concerned citizen and I would, if I could do more about it, I definitely would. I'm not gonna get on this petition and have people sign or anything else. That's why I'm coming to you, to get something started. And I hope you pass the ban on smoking. I'm sorry, Matt, if you feel that way, but,
Donna?
So, just one more comment. When you say, well, where will they go in Sunset? They can go up towards the road, towards the street. I mean, the street is an open place.
Public right of way.
Yeah, and they can smoke there. So it could just say, you know, please smoke in this area, which would be outside the gate up by the street. So there are options.
So let me offer an alternative then. The alternative would be in non-developed parks where you don't have specific designated parking areas. Maybe it's you know, only in the right of way. I don't know if that's the right answer because public right of way we can't do a whole heck of a lot about. In areas where there's specific parking lots outside of Claggett Creek, or not Claggett Creek, but help me out, Jim. Little League fields, where it's banned altogether. I don't know. Maybe that's a suitable alternative. I don't know. Is that a suitable alternative? If you effectively restrict it to parking lots and people's cars or the public right of way? I'm just asking a question. I'm just asking a question.
alternative, but it's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on the situation. If you're going to ban cigarettes from the park, you're going to ban them. If not, and a designated area, people say, oh, isn't this a designated area? No, it's not.
Yeah.
And how do you know where the designated areas are?
I understand.
Sign up, right?
Yep.
So there you go.
So
Sign
what,
that nobody pays any attention to.
what do you do when somebody's walking down the street in front of your house smoking?
I don't do anything, but they're not standing there sitting on a bench, smoking one cigarette after another, or, I don't, that's up to them. But when they're in a park next to my house, and my wife's got asthma super bad, where cigarette smoke is really a bad thing. And so that's one reason I'm here, and I'm just tired of seeing cigarette butts all over.
Daryl, before you go, thanks for all the things that you do at Sunset Park. Appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome, man. It's
Yes,
I'm-
Mr. Taylor?
glad and I'm able to do it because I like my house, I like the park, I like working with Robert, I like working with some of the people on the park board, and I like working with the city council. And I like doing volunteer work. I've been here over 50 years in Kaiser, and I've done a lot of volunteer work, and you guys are doing a lot of volunteer work, and I thank you for all the things you guys do. 24/7, you guys are always thinking about something about concerning the park, and I know that. So, thank you, and I appreciate your time. I hope the problem will be solved one way or the other, and I'll keep taking care of Sunset Park, so that's not an issue.
Did you want to say something, Dylan? No. No? Mr. Taylor wanted to say something.
Well, I think that we still get off the point here when we start talking about enforcement and all those things. That's way beyond our parameter. What I'd like to see is this go forward to city council, let them deal with this. They're the ones that make the policy, not us. We're making a recommendation. If we don't make a recommendation, it's not gonna get to them. Let them make the decisions on this. I'm not sure if this takes a public hearing, does it, Debbie?
No, I don't think so, but I don't really know. Our city attorney would be the one that would answer.
Yeah, I'd have to ask Shannon, but regardless, I mean, it would be probably a lot more people there that would be talking about this. I think we owe it to Daryl and other people who would like to see this, to put it in front of the city council and let them hash this out. And if they decide it isn't enforceable, they don't want to do it, they're going to get more testimony than we do. But let's get it to city council and let them deal with it. That's,
All right.
All right, so if your suggestion is that we send it to city council to make them decide, then I would recommend that we change the word recommend in our, suggestion to them, I guess, because if we recommend a band, then they're going to, take that as what we want them to do. And if we'd rather have them have a conversation about it, make them make the decision, then we shouldn't recommend anything at all. Other than
well, we can.
you guys decide.
We can vote on my original motion. And if that fails, then may we recommend the city council deal with this, but that's an odd way to do it, but, I'd be fine with that. I just want to get it in front of council and let them do it.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm still struggling this one, and I think if the Parks Board is going to make a recommendation of a ban, I think that the ban should include the ban on all tobacco products, e-cigarettes, all forms of marijuana or cannabis products, and instead of just saying smoking, because I think smoking is probably too nebulous. I think you have to have some specificity to it to include the vaping and all tobacco products, because, I could say that there's probably people out there that say they don't want to see people hawking a loogie on the side of the sidewalk with their chew in their mouth because they don't want to smoke. That would just be,
Can we amend that motion?
Second.
that's almost mimicking verbatim what City of Salem has.
So basically you're saying tobacco products?
Tobacco products, e-cigarettes, and all,
Cigarettes or tobacco products?
No.
no, not necessarily, not necessarily.
It's called vaping, and Marion County bans all form of tobacco and vaping on any county property.
And as well as marijuana and cannabis products, I think is going to be, well, to reemphasize that, I think it's already probably within the city. If the Parks Board is wanting to go that route, that would be my
All right,
preferred alternative language.
I'm willing to change my motion if.
Well, we have to have an amendment to change the motion. Is there an amendment to change your motion?
Do you want to change that motion that way?
I didn't make the motion.
No,
I'm just suggesting,
Motion.
You can make a motion on that,
You can offer a friendly amendment.
I would offer that as a friendly amendment.
Well,
and I'll second that.
not according to Robert's Rules of Order.
Yeah, you can.
No. Well, we'll let it go this time. But
You can
remember,
do a friendly amendment,
no, it's
I
not in the
second.
book.
and you vote on the friendly amendment.
Yes, well, read the book. Anyway,
Just
fine.
withdraw the frickin' motion and redo it.
Call for the motion.
Well,
Now, I'm going to say, is there any further discussion? No.
are,
So,
are we voting on the original
no,
motion?
we're taking the friendly amendment.
We have to vote on that.
No, you don't.
No, you don't.
Well, you haven't asked Clint and haven't asked me. That's what you have to do. Clint, will you accept that? You're the second,
Yeah.
and I will.
All
Okay,
right.
now we're where we should be.
You know, that ain't a whole lot of difference about what I want.
Well, I know,
Anyway.
but that's,
Yes, we have some further discussions.
So there's two hats to this. as a citizen, I don't like the idea of putting non-enforceable things in place for the purpose of putting things in place. I just don't like that. As a dad, and as somebody that doesn't like smoking, it drives me nuts. I know I stated that I'm a no vote. I'm still a little bit in that camp, but I want to hear what other folks have to say, and maybe I can muster up. I don't know. It's one of those things that just I don't feel comfortable on either way. It's just odd. It's a recommendation. We're not making an official rule or law or anything here. I mean, basically, we have to stick a recommendation in the hands of the city council. I'm interested to see what anybody else has to say on this.
So,
That, you know what? As I was.
so the chair recognizes himself. So I've been down at
You got a
Kite.
mirror?
Absolutely.
Okay,
I
all
see
right.
myself all the time. I can't believe I'm that old.
Is that handsome, right?
Well, if I can see over the glare in my head. Anyway, I've been down at Kaiser Rapids a lot in the last couple months. And I go a lot down by the disc golf course, and there's a lot of smoking of various things down there. And I know there's probably copious amounts of beer consumed down there. I'm not sure that a ban on that will stop what goes down there, because the police don't come down there very often at all. In fact, the only people who go down there are the people who do all that stuff. So I'm also torn on whether we should pass this motion. That's all I have to say. So,
Why don't you ask staff what they think?
why don't you ask for the floor and ask staff?
Staff doesn't have a thought.
What do you think in this whole thing?
And
Does it make a difference to you, Robert?
does it matter if it is?
Not really. I'm not a citizen of Kaiser, so I don't really have a big say in
Take
this
care
matter.
of the parks. What do you think?
But I think we've enforced it when it is important to be enforced for fire danger. We post signs to make it very clear. Other than that, it's personal preference. And that's why you guys are here.
One
Yes,
last,
Jim.
one last thing. Worrying about enforcement is not the issue here. The issue is getting this in front of city council and let them deal with those things. A sign will do more for enforcement. It's gonna cut 78% of the smoking out. I mean, people see the sign, they're gonna realize you're not supposed to smoke, and they're not gonna smoke. You know, you're always gonna have people break rules. I mean, that's just humanity. You're gonna break rules. And, you know, if Robert sees somebody down there smoking, you know, and it's convenient, he can say, there's no smoking in the park or whatever, but he's not gonna go down there and be the smoking monitor. I just want this to finally get in front of city council and let them hash this out. And that's my goal here.
It has been before city
And for
council.
that, no, it hasn't. And so with that, I call for the question.
Sorry.
Okay,
There's
I just,
further debate. When we're done with debate,
Okay.
we'll have the question.
thank you.
Yes, Donna.
I just want to remind you again that no smoking isn't enforceable. We've all been saying that. But I think that most smokers are courteous enough to go to a designated area. I think you'll have a better response to placing a designated area for smoking than you will to a no smoking, especially when people know it's not going to be enforced. And that won't take long for them to find that out.
I agree with Donna.
Any further debate? We have a motion on the floor to recommend to the city council that all tobacco products, vaping and other marijuana and the like are not allowed to be smoked or used in City of Kaiser parks. Is that about it?
It is.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
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 So who were the ayes?
2 for and 3
On
against.
the opposed side?
No, who were the ayes? Clint and, okay, thank you.
So I would like to make a motion now. I
Yes,
would like to
Donna.
make a motion that our recommendation to city council is that we create designated smoking areas for
Seconded.
all the parks.
Okay, I'll let her finish. Okay, it's been moved and second that we put designated smoking areas in City of Kaiser parks. Does that also include vaping and all the other stuff, Donna?
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't we just get with it and say parking lots?
Well,
That's the obvious.
Mr. Chair,
Well, okay, so we have moved and says, now we got debate. So he thinks we should change it to parking lots. What do you have to say?
I think the only struggle with that, though, is not all the undeveloped parks have parking lots.
Then I guess
So-
you don't smoke there, do you? You go out to your car.
That's for staff and the city to determine.
There you go.
But the rest of the parks,
That may be in fact the designated area.
well, so be it. But if there's not a facility that would warrant or otherwise support that, then let those guys do the hard work on that. I'm not trying to punt to them. No, but for real, I mean, if you've got somebody parking at the boat ramp and they're in the middle of the boat ramp and they just got done water skiing or something, they want to come in and have a Cuban or whatever. Those aren't legal yet, are they? Cohiba, whatever. Hey, what are you gonna
At
do?
this point in time.
I think you're gonna. Really, your risk areas, in my opinion, are going to be your undeveloped parks, and I think what we could even maybe recommend is natural areas in general, which could include the trails at KRP, because that's a significant risk of fire hazard and things back in that area.
Well, all parks may not have a designated area, so there wouldn't be smoking there.
Then so
I
be
mean-
it.
I'm
Yeah.
assuming there'd be.
And it's already banned on trails.
If staff can't define a designated smoking area in somewhere like Sunset or Palmacia or Bear Park, then so be it.
I'm fine with that.
Yes.
Okay, so can we, I'm fundamentally opposed to constructing new areas that are designated as smoking. However, if we were to say something along the lines of parking, you know what, I'd probably still be a no vote, but I would be way more in the yes camp than I already would be. But yeah, if we're gonna do any sort of designation for smoking, then it should definitely just be to already constructed
No,
places.
absolutely. No, for sure. I don't think we need to build a kiosk for
That's not
people to go
something
smoke.
that we can decide. Like you said, that's a staff issue.
It's not in the master plan. There's your answer.
It's not in the master
You
plan.
don't get a smoking booth.
Call for the question.
Is there any further debate? We have to vote on that motion, by the way.
Well, and
That's what I'm asking.
So is the motion changed to actually be parking lots?
No, I think
No.
it's still designated area and let them
What you
decide.
mean?
Let
Oh.
staff decide what
Okay,
the
I see.
designated area is. If there's not, then there's not allowed. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion before us to recommend to city council that we allow smoking in designated areas. That also includes use of chewing tobacco, all tobacco products, vaping, and marijuana. Does that include eating marijuana?
Actually, marijuana isn't even an issue.
Already
'Cause you
illegal.
can't, you already by
Just said
state
that's
law
what it
can't.
was. I know.
well, and the only reason I brought it up is because it was in the Salem rule, and that's
Well, I saw a lot of clouds come up from around the golf course.
yeah.
It might also be like a holdover from like,
Well, that's when they enforced it. Was when the marijuana ban passed. Salem snuck the smoking ban into that at the same time.
Okay. So, all those in favor of the motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
it's me. Do you say aye when you're opposed? Nay?
Say aye.
Okay, all right.
Motion passes.
Okay. We've got something in front of city council.
Well, and I really hope that the recommendation is very considerate of the natural spaces, because I think those are, outside of obviously the places where kids are playing, the natural areas I think are going to be one of the ones that are of much more significant risk than not.
Now we're done with that. We're up to the report on community stakeholder groups.
Yeah.
Well, actually, weren't we still on appearance of citizens?
Yes, we are, I think.
Oh, well, I don't have anybody else on my list.
Well, is there any?
Was anybody else who wanted to speak? All right, so now we'll move on to report on the community stakeholder group.
Okay, well, Mr. Chair, thank you. So we've had some really good conversations. We've had the opportunity to now hold a couple public meetings. I know Daryl's been there with his wife. We went to the West Kaiser Neighborhood Association and chatted with those folks, and they brought up some really good topics, and it's been really helpful. We met again on September 22nd, and actually Wayne was a rock star. He's out here in the audience and hooked us up with some really good minutes on it. And I'm just going to kind of quick over some of those. The group has really kind of solidified the recommendation of moving forward with the 2 full-time employees, how that's going to flesh out and what exactly they're going to do, and the training is going to be up to staff. The vehicles and the worn-out equipment is being part of it. And then we changed a little bit of the language on this one page that you have in front of you, and I've sent it out a few times over the last couple weeks. But on the back page, you'll see in immediate needs under under part 3, instead of just increased services, we changed it to tree maintenance, system-wide invasive removal, system-wide tree and trail assessment. The tree assessment was something that was already going to be in place, but the trail assessment was something that came out of a lot of the discussion, especially around some of the West Kaiser Neighborhood Association parks, specifically with regards to obstruction in the trails that aren't finished trails, so they're natural. But there's roots and other sort of tripping hazards that have come in. And that could be something as simple as somebody going in, walking, identifying some of those hazards, and then seeing what we can do to mitigate the risks. And then increased services, I think, is just system-wide with mowing, with fertilization, with watering, and just general upkeep. There's a lot of really good notes here as it relates to safety and security, where increased concerns, lighting, increased police enforcement now with the additional 5 officers they're going to be getting. One of the really interesting conversations that came out was trying to re-engage our neighborhood watch groups and get those folks, especially in the undeveloped parks, Palmacia, Sunset, Bear Park, in that area, you know, kind of walking through, and then if they're seeing things that are suspicious, making sure to call the police rather than the Ghostbusters. And then it was brought up by Terry Moore about the smoking issue, and then some various other issues that were raised. A lot of new conversations. One of the increased conversations on the capital project that could be looked at soon was the lawn over at Kaiser Rapids, and then possibly completing the walking path that's out there in the loop. And Robert, you understand what I'm talking about, the loop piece, right? Yeah. And then, so that's really kind of where we're at. I'm glossing over these notes. They're really good notes, and I've got a copy for folks if y'all want to see it. So we're at a point in this where we need to, you all should have seen this one pager. I sent it out a couple times. My goal is to try to get this approved tonight so we can get it on the streets for the next, the last part of phase 1, so to speak, and then moving into phase 2. We talked a little bit about this at the last meeting, and I'm just going to go through this really quick because I think it's important that we really understand the scope of what we're looking at. As it says, our objectives is seek community response for increased maintenance and operations need and prioritization for the replacement and repairs of current assets, and effectively direct our dollars going into the dedicated parks fund for the next 18 to 36 months. The plan is a multi-phase public process dedicating to ensuring community input, and then we're working as an independent group of the Parks Board and Kaiser citizens to work on these priorities. The next big piece is really sort of how the priorities are going to happen. The condition of the asset is going to be kind of important, and that's something that Robert and Don and those folks can kind of help us with in rating them, as a 5 being the worst and 1 sort of being the best. And I apologize for that looking like an I. It's the font, so I'll fix that. And then the type of park, whether it's neighborhood, whether it's undeveloped, whether it's a community or neighborhood park, and then kind of using that as a metric, and then kind of rolling into the safety, accessibility, and resource distribution. Not putting all our eggs in one basket or one specific geographic area. And we will hold at least 3 meetings. We held one on September 12th with the Kaiser Parks Advisory Board, and then we did one on September 22nd. This is kind of counting as one, and then we want to do at least one more before the end of October, so that we as the community group can come forward with the final recommendation of these projects in November. And then shifting into phase 2, which will last the last part of the year into the first part of next year, would basically be an affirmation or adjustment of the recommended projects by the group from staff. We'd give the list of these projects to staff. They would provide cost analysis and tentative timelines. And then staff would provide us those analysis and timelines. We would hold some public work sessions so we can kind of flesh out the details of, if we can get 3 things for $30,000 or 1 thing for $100,000, how do we want to look at the resource allocation based off of some of these criteria in phase 1, make adjustments, and then make the final recommendation to council. Now, recognizing that even though many of these tentative timelines and tentative analysis needs are going to be tentative, we're going to probably need additional input as we actually move into, let's say, for example, the replacement of the Meadows facility. We're going to want to get that core group of folks around that neighborhood to want to have some input and do some of that outreach. And so those are things that are going to be ongoing as this really starts to kind of unfold in the next 12 to 18 months. So that's really it. And the backside, again, is the immediate needs that staff has identified immediately in the next basically 0 to 6 months after the first fees starts rolling in. The increased services, as mentioned, is all of the items and everything listed in 3 above, and these are going to start happening in the 3 to 36 month category. The scoring on the side is data that was derived from the survey, and the only ones that you're going to see have the same the repair irrigation, increased mowing, and lawn fertilization actually took 2 different scores from the survey and combined them and averaged them. So that's how we got the 3.68. One of the theories that came out of, or one of the thought processes that came out of the work group was maybe you look at all the 1s, then you look at the 2s, and so on and so forth down the list in terms of looking at your resource allocation over time. And then again, the capital project would be discuss options for an SEC project, specifically the lawn at Kaiser Rapids, getting that done, leveled out, get the irrigation put in, finishing out the loop, possibly looking at some benches or walking paths near in Bear, Palmacia, and or other parks. And then there was a discussion about possibly putting in a fence at Ben Miller. Talking with some folks, they said that one of the reasons they don't use it is because it's so close to the road as they drive around, and folks are a little bit leery to have their kids running around there. So that was a safety thought. As you know, Carlson Skate Park was very well repaired. It's the phase 1 portion of that has allowed the city some time to really kind of plan that out. I think Robert's, and I don't mean to speak for you, but what I understand is the intent is to possibly look at a partial redesign of the bowls on the east side. East side, yeah, on the east side, which would be a significant cost savings from a total redesign. The folks that came in actually gave the city some really good tips on how to care for the facility. So possibly redesigning those 2 bowls and then actually doing a complete sand surface like they did for the areas they did now, but for the entire facility, do some coping repair and other things like that in that park. So that's one of those things that these repairs bought us a little bit of time so we can it's still something that we have to be, I think, on the forefront of our minds and get moving probably, in the next 24 to 36 months, but it's not as immediate right this minute, it has to happen like next month type thing. And then the new park shop was one that was identified by staff. As more equipment comes, increased need for the maintenance and the additional space for storage, as well as prevent rapid deterioration. So whether that storage facility is here or if it's another park, we don't know that, but Robert can give us probably more details on that. So there are members of the parks group that still have some homework to do. I haven't heard back much from them. Wes Kaiser's been extremely engaged in the whole conversation. We've had some other folks. Wayne's been great coming in and talking with us. I've got a nice list of folks that have come and have given their opinions, and many of them they're all great opinions. Nobody has really kind of challenged us in terms of coming in and really being that alternative point of view, I guess is what I'll call it. I think that, the comments have all been generally in favor, and I think people are recognizing the value, hopefully. So really, the next step is if we can, I already noticed an error here on the top of this page. It says September to December. Really, it's going to be October to January, and I'll fix that. But I'd like to really try to get this thing wrapped up, and so we can get it on the street for the next portion.
Any comments, Mr. Taylor?
Well, and I know we talked about a lot of this on the 22nd, and maybe since this goes November to January Phase 2, this isn't the right time, but one of the things we discussed in length was the big field at Kaiser Rapids.
Right.
And that's a timing thing, because I think if you wanted to seed that, you probably want to do that like in May or June when it starts to warm up. But Robert, how long does it take if we do the DEQ permit? How long is that going to take?
About a month, I think.
So I think that's something we ought to look at to get that going, and then look at using SDCs for irrigation, so we can use part of our SDCs on that. But I think that's something we want to get done. It's very visible, something that's, way overdue. And,
Well, and I agree with you, Jim, on
and
that.
that's not a January thing, but, we could apply for the permit.
Well, really what it's going to boil down to is it was a permit cost last year because Clinton had everybody and their brother lined up to do it.
Right.
We burnt them. So if we can't get them back, then we're talking about a significant cost increase on that same project.
Well, again, it's something that's very visible.
I get it, but I mean, we're gonna have to make amends and buy some cookies.
Well,
I mean, because otherwise, I mean, Clint, you valued it at $250,000, didn't you? So I mean, that's a huge. I mean, if it's $1,800, it's an easy conversation.
how much of that was irrigation, Clint? Probably a big chunk.
$1,800 is a heck of a lot easier conversation than $250,000.
How long are their permits good for?
I don't have the answer to that. Probably a year.
I think it's something we should do. I mean, that's something that's talked about. I'm sure the neighborhood association, a lot of people use that out there and use it.
Well, again, I think from the SEC
And,
portion.
and maybe we can, maybe we can get some people again that are willing to work on that for us, but I'd like to see that at least started.
Any other comments or questions for Robert? Yes, Donna?
I want to be careful that we don't pile up, and not that I don't want that green grass out there. I wanted it out there last time. I think it's important that we do something about that area soon, because it's just detrimental to the park. But
It
On the
worked
other
for,
hand-
it really worked for one big speed bump.
yeah, on the other hand, there's a lot of knowledge in the community about everything going to Kaiser Rapids Park. And I want to be really careful that we don't just focus on Kaiser Rapids Park. Because there's lots of things in the community that need to be done that are not in Kaiser Rapids Park. And so I'm kind of torn. I just wanted to throw that out there as a thought. That we need to allow staff, we need to go through this process and have part of that lawn at Kaiser Rapids Park considered. But I don't think we should put the cart before the horse.
Right.
Going to, while we're in the middle of going through this process by naming something that should be done immediately, or we should start working on something immediately. I think we need to let the public tell us what they want, and then we can make decisions from that.
Any other discussion?
And I think the response has been, in many areas, I think if it's $1,800, people are like, wahoo. It's $250,000, ain't happening. We're gonna get a lot of feedback, negative feedback on that. And so, you know, I think we missed an opportunity last year, but we were under a status quo budget. You know, we're facing a little bit different opportunity now. But I think that green grass for $1,800 and that much square footage is gonna be a heck of a lot more digestible than $250,000. And so I agree.
Well, we don't, you know, I'd like to find out how much the irrigation is going to cost and how much we can spend on SDCs for that.
It's
I would
13%.
guess the irrigation,
13.6%.
It's still
irrigation?
13.6%. I mean, you're not gonna get there. Not with SECs. You're still gonna have to front load it with a ton of money.
you can use more SDCs than that.
No, well, there's not very much.
It's a community park.
Do you,
It's in the master plan. You can use more than 13%, can't you?
Robert, how much is left on the old funds?
I do not have that information in front of me right now. I couldn't tell you.
Okay, well, rather than focusing on one item, I'd like to.
Well, I'd like to look at it. I'd like to get the figures, so
We
we
can have
know.
that discussion.
If you have somebody do it, it's very costly.
No, well, I don't think we're talking about have somebody do it, if we do it ourselves.
Well, if we do it ourselves, then it's not gonna cost very much, and that's it. But that would be if you're talking $250,000, that's a
But we're
big
talking a lot of
piece
ifs.
of it.
Mr. Chair, can we refocus on the
Yes.
bigger picture here? I'm not
Yes.
trying to be I get you 100%. I think
Oh.
it's a big thing. We need to get there, but I'd really like to get through this one pager because,
Yeah,
I mean,
let's
this is,
finish.
this, if we don't get this done now, we're delaying everything a month. And so we need to have this discussion. That's why I sent it out, you know, at least 3 weeks ago, and I sent it out again last week to remind folks. But I'd really, really, really hope we can get through this. And I
So
thi- and
what
I
do you
thi-
want us to do with this now?
Well, if there's changes we need to make, if there's recommendations, I got responses back from only a couple people. So, you know, I don't know what Dylan's thinking, I don't know what Jim's thinking, I don't know what Clint's thinking, I don't know what
Oh, I
David's
told you what
thinking.
I thought. I thought that ought to be on there, but at least for the permit, but.
Well, no,
other
but
than that-
but that's part of the cost analysis that staff can provide when we get to that second phase
Okay.
piece. So I'm not trying to be arguing, I think it's super important that we get that data, but we're not there yet. I think we gotta get this fleshed out first.
Agreed.
Well, I'm fine with what you have, going through February,
Through what? January?
or January, yes.
Yeah, we have plenty
So
of
you're
time.
going
So-
through phase one, phase two?
So the piece, and this is the you know, the asset piece and the conditions. Robert, is that gonna be something that's gonna be, if we have a 1 to 5 scale, 5 being the worst, 1 being the best, is that easy to get that data from you guys?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
So then we can use that. Obviously, we know whether it's a community or neighborhood or undeveloped park. We just have to look at it. And then what I'd like to do, Robert, if we can, if the city can't, let me know and I'll plot it geospatially. But I'd like to be able to see the parks. I mean, we have little maps, but it's really hard to see. I'd like to be able to get it up like on the screen or something so folks can see and we can say, okay, here's where these parks are, and we can talk about the resource allocation as part of some of the decision-making process on it.
Okay.
Would that be helpful? Because again, we don't want to throw all our eggs in, you know, the Gubster Parks and then Kaiser Rapids and then Ben Miller, and then we forget, you know, the rest of the city. We need to be mindful of that as we're,
Over and over and over
Right.
and over.
and frankly, I don't want to throw them all into, you know, just neighborhood. Personally, I don't want to throw them all just into neighborhood parks or community parks. I mean, we need to have a serious conversation, because the number one thing that's come out of folks that live near undeveloped parks is the urban nomad population and the underbrush and all the things that are allowing those folks to go in there and habitate. And so that's a significant issue of safety and concern for the people that live around those parks. And I think we need to be mindful and respectful of that. So,
Matt, you're wanting that in a slide, like to put on a screen here for
Yeah,
next
something,
for the next
yeah.
meeting, or for when do you want that ready for you?
you know, it'd be helpful. The other thing that I wanted to get out of tonight is when we can hold the next meeting, in terms of kind of like this work group meeting.
Yep.
It would be helpful there, because I think we can kind of dive into some of the details on kind of how the scoring is, and then the recommendations that come out of that group.
Okay.
So we can, so that group can come back and say, we have an affirmative recommendation of number 1 on Meadows, number 2 on Northview, number 1 on Chalmers Jones, or however be it. So I just think of and that's all right here, except for the Meadows, but, yeah. So that would be helpful if possible. And if not, let me know, and like I said, I can plot it in GIS if need be, but, yeah. The group's been great. Like I said, we've gotten a lot of feedback. The people that have been engaged have been fantastic. I kind of, like I said, I wish we had some alternative points of view. But it's calmed down on Facebook. I haven't been called names on Facebook when I've posted, which has been great.
I can take care of that.
I know you can. And actually, really one of the individuals that really didn't care for this whole process, I had a very nice engagement with that individual on social media. They were asking some questions on how they might be able to, because of their age, not have to pay the full amount. And I told, great, thanks, very pleasant. So I think the city council was great in that determination. But anyways, that notwithstanding, back to this. And this.
Well, show of hands, why don't we do a show of hands, or everybody is fine with what's been put together here? We don't have to vote on it.
Clint's being awfully quiet. It's making me nervous.
Somebody say something so we can
So,
get through over there.
I just,
And the reason for this, and I'm sorry,
kind of like, this is what you kind of want us to do. You want us to go yay or nay or change this, and then Robert's going to go out and do his assessment and come back with a refined list? Is that what is the idea?
well, we're not approving the projects. What we're looking at is, this is the list that staff has said we need to do.
It says what it says.
This generally represents the next 18 to 36, well, really 0 to 36 months once it gets going. But realistically, in terms of actual shovel in the ground type stuff, it's 18 to 36 months. And generally represents about $1.5 million to $2 million, depending on what level these things actually happen at. And I think that's one of the things that I lost some folks in the last meeting, in the last group we had, was there was this thought that we're just going to have a ton of money straight out the get going. We got to go for the biggest bang for our buck type thing. And once it was identified that no, this really that thing down there really represents
Airplane.
a lot more than just a little bit of money. They went, oh, okay, and they got it. And so I don't even know where I was going with that, other than this is the one. So this is the anticipated deliverables that the police had that we didn't have, right? So the cops said, we're going to give you 5 cops. This is the equipment. This is the gear. This is the cost. Here you go. It was done.
Once we do this, then we'll have that deliverable.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So this is effectively the deliverables, the focused deliverables that staff has identified as specific needs in the next 18 to 36 months. Now, does that mean if, I don't know, that means if a bridge falls down at one of the parks that we're going to go, oh, well, it's not on the list. No, absolutely not. Staff's going to be able to reprioritize and look at issues of significant safety or otherwise accordingly. But this is the backlog of everything Robert hasn't been able to do that's needed to do for years and years and years, and now we actually have the opportunity to be effective. Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool.
And this is the way it's being presented to the people who are coming to the meetings, talking about.
I mean, and this is in Parks Ease, so I mean, if we need to, I haven't gotten much, I haven't really gotten much by way of feedback from the folks in the prioritization group, because again, they're headlong into it. But if we need to make this more, if we need to do less explaining, I don't know how to,
Keep it simple, stupid.
well, I don't want to use the word stupid or dumb it down, because people are really smart, but I know what you're saying. That's my track, right? I mean, if we understand it because we're,
Is what you want.
is that what I'm lacking here, is clarity? Thanks. Yeah,
I think it has clarity.
okay.
I think it's good. I'm good. I think it's good. It's all good. Everything's good.
That's it, Dylan?
That's it.
You usually have like this awesome nugget.
I'm sorry. I think you did a bang up
Dozed
job.
off.
No, I read it before. I thought it was good. I didn't say anything because I was like, yeah, this is fine.
We have a show of hands, everybody likes this.
You're out of order.
No.
No, you
Get
didn't
on.
ask, you do not have the floor, you're out of order.
Just made you some notes that just made it with this
I have the floor,
Like the
sir.
floor?
language.
Yes, you may have the floor as soon as Donna sits down.
Because there's nothing to refer to. Those are- You just make it bold. Just make it bold.
You're right. Donna's always right. Don't argue with Donna.
Never argue with Donna. What did Donna catch?
I don't know, but
Okay.
she wrote in nursing, so I can't understand her writing, so I'll have to pull her aside and ask.
I'd like the chair to ask for a show of hands of people that agree with this.
Will that work for you for right now, Robert? All right, all those agree with this tentative list?
Well, no, this isn't a,
Said hands, didn't he?
The order is tentative.
thank you.
For the projects to Robert prioritize. All those in
All
favor,
these.
raise your hand.
Well, thank you, Ms. Chair. This is going to serve as our talking points for the group. And I'm really excited to continue to work with Wes Kaiser and the other folks that have been engaged and get this out on there. And so I'll be sending this out to the group that I've been talking to, and hopefully, actually, we'll give it to the city council on the 16th. So it's a good
Of
deliverable.
this month?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, I think that is, yes, ma'am.
You need to get it to us tomorrow.
I can send it to you right now.
Okay, because we're doing the packet tomorrow.
Is this, is part of the update you need it for tomorrow?
Well, you said you wanted to get it in front of council, right?
Yeah.
And we're working on the packet tomorrow.
Okay, I'll send it to you tonight.
Just wanted to let
Yeah,
you know.
no, thanks for that note, Debbie. So, Mr. Chair, I guess the only other point of business is for the folks that are on the prioritization group. I'd like to get, and actually, I know, Wayne, you're involved with it, and Daryl, if you've got some input, maybe if the chair will allow, that would be helpful as well. But I'd like to get this next meeting done in the next couple weeks. We've struggled, and Bob's on there as well, I'm sorry, Bob. We've struggled with Wednesday nights and Friday nights, so I don't know if a Tuesday or a Thursday works better for y'all, but I'd like to get it on the calendar as soon as possible so I can get it out to folks.
I like Tuesdays better.
You like Tuesdays?
Matt, do you need this this room?
I'm thinking here.
If I don't care where we go, to be honest with you.
Okay, because you were talking about a screen and having something up.
Yeah, and Debbie, or not Debbie, Tracy and Allison hooked us up with a screen in one of the other rooms. So,
Okay.
I mean, I'm pretty much, if I can get if I can get a projector and a wall, I'll make it work.
Yeah, so, because, okay, you can, there's. The 24th is, this room is open on the.
October 24th, which, is that a Tuesday?
Uh-huh.
Would October 24th work for y'all?
I do believe so.
Wayne, how's that sound for you?
Let's slam it in.
Wayne, I'm looking at I'm looking at Daryl thinking Wayne. Daryl, how does that work for you? 24th of October. You and your wife, you can be able to come. I'm sorry.
You gonna be here?
Okay.
Or you gonna be?
Wayne. Bob. Okay, sir. Okay. I haven't seen you around, so I'm just.
Absolutely.
Well, because you've been on that, you've been at the last couple of meetings, so yes. Yes. Did you? Good.
Well, the more public input we get, the better.
So, yeah, I think, Mr. Chair, if that'll work, then I'll get that information out to the folks. Maybe 6:30. I think 6 is sometimes a little more challenging for, well, although,
Okay, either way.
what do you think, Mr. Chair?
6:30 's
6 or
fine.
6:30?
6 o'clock is better for me.
Yeah, these things have a tendency to run just a little, I think we'll go with 6, just to keep it consistent with what we do at the
On
parks.
24th?
Yeah.
Anybody on the committee have objection
Debbie,
to that?
will you put out a reminder on that?
No, I mean, it's, I'll do it, because it's not a city, I mean, it's kind of a subcommittee, I guess, similar to what we were doing before, so I'll make sure to get that out for folks. And for those watching at home, please, 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 if you've got ideas, we're going to get this one pager published. If you've got ideas on this or you've got some alternative points of view, please come share it. Your input is critical to this process. We want to hear from everybody, not just people that like this. It's all of our money. All of our opinions matter. So I've said it from day one, and I'll continue to say it until this is done. So, Mr. Chair, thank you for the floor.
Yes, moving on. Policy for recognition of an amenity that has been updated or improved. Do we have some? Matt, weren't you involved in that?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So,
Or do you want to put that off until next meeting?
no, I've done some research on this, and I've had some conversations with folks, and I think I don't. It's kind of one of those things where we are in a unique situation as a result of the volleyball courts. I think it resolved itself well. I think there's a good recommendation on the floor for that. But that doesn't negate the need for conversation moving forward. It's kind of one of those things, there's specific language in our information packet that talks about establishing naming process for parks, also for dedication and donation naming and things of that nature. You know, I don't imagine that anybody's going to swoop in and say they want to rename Carlson Skate Park because we're redoing it. We're not. I mean, we're kind of fixing it in a couple areas. And I'm really sensitive to that. And I want to point out an article, an op-ed that Dr. McGee put out not too long after the parks fee moved forward, because the conversation, I think, was a little bit kind of doom and gloom that, you know, the skate park's the worst thing that's ever happened, and this, that, and the other. And part of that was even my own narrative, because that was the impression I think many of us had at the time, because we hadn't had the opportunity to work yet with the folks that came in and do it, that fixed it. We've since gotten wiser and realized that, you know, it's actually not as bad as it is, and in fact, there's still something to work with. You know, could there be an opportunity to expand it? Maybe. Is there going to be an opportunity to do some redesign? Sure. Are we going to make it better? Yeah. But I don't think that's going to require taking credit away from or changing the name of the individuals that originally put that forth. I would hesitate, Mr. Chair, at this point to really dive into the nuances of a new policy, only because I think that we don't quite know yet. I don't know, I mean, the replacement, the basketball courts aren't named for people. The playground equipment aren't necessarily named for people, correct?
correct.
So those things that are going to be coming up straight out the gate, I don't think that we're really going to run into that. I'd really encourage us to kind of take a step back on this for a little while, maybe see how it plays out. Talk to the folks that have been around, you know, engage Jim and Clint, and, you know, if anybody knows how to do naming stuff, it's going to be Clint with all the naming of the fields down at Kaiser Little League. And so, as much as I love committees, I would much rather maybe engage, you know, a couple of those folks and flesh this out a little bit more and see if we really do actually need to go through the process of a policy at this point. I just don't see it there right now. That's just my own personal opinion, because looking at everything we got coming down the pike, I'm not seeing that we're going to go, yes, we must name it for, you know, the guy that stands on the corner saying, is it whatever, you know.
All right, I agree with you. So we're moving on to posting of rules at the boat ramp.
That was Jim's.
That was Jim. You wanted to post rules at the boat ramp. What kind of rules were you looking for?
Well, I was just at the, we talked about before that, yeah, anybody under the age of 12 or 10 be required to have a life jacket to be on the dock. And, you know, the more I got to think about that, I'm not sure that we can do that. I think that's Marine Board. Well, I don't care about parental. I mean, that, you know, if I'm gonna trust parents to do the right thing, I'm in trouble. But I think that's a Marine Board issue, and I don't think that we can do anything about once they're on the dock.
That's correct. And we had a sign that was on the dock up until about 3 weeks ago because it got stolen. But I'm ordering a new one. That was
What did the sign say?
basically no swimming off the dock, no fishing off the dock, no. It was things to keep people safe from the boats that could be coming in and out. And it's a basic sign that they put on pretty much all the docks that are installed in Oregon. And that is ordered as we speak. Don't know when I'll get it, but it will be reinstalled soon. So there was already a sign that had some basic rules. I don't know if it was all the rules that you were just talking about, but had a lot of the important things listed.
Well,
And we have a park rules sign up at the kiosk.
right, and I still think it's a good idea for life jackets for those kids. And I'm not so sure that the Marine Board may not have something about that anyway. I'm not
Yeah.
real sure.
And we have a life jacket station now
Right.
officially posted, which is awesome, which I don't think we had a couple months ago when we were talking
Well, the
about that,
station
so.
made a great big deal about the one they installed, and they think they're just whatever. And I posted on Facebook, well, Kaiser did this months ago, but Statesman doesn't know that Kaiser exists.
And we didn't
So-
have to have anybody drowned.
Anyway, so skip that one. Marine Board.
Good. That one's gone. Now, Robert, since you've already talked a lot, do you want to talk some more?
Let's do it. A new project that's coming up down at Kaiser Rapids. Kaiser Rotary is actually taking on this project. They're going to be installing a tree arboretum. So basically what this is just a tree planting project. It's going to take place on November 4th, thank you, on the southeast portion of the park, basically where that field area that we're talking about, the open field area on the loop trail, the eastern portion of that between the trail and the houses, to act kind of as a buffer. We kind of planted, back when the park was originally started seeing some development, we planted a few trees over there, but nothing significant. What's going to be really neat about this is we're going to try to include displaying a lot of our city trees on the tree list that we hand to people when they ask what type of tree can they plant. Now they're actually going to be able to go down to the park and physically look at the trees to help them determine which trees they like based on the list. There's going to be about 70 trees in total planted. I don't know that all of them are going to go in the ground this year. Rotary has already approved a grant of $4,000 towards this project, and then the remainder of the funds will come out of the tree fund. So it's not affecting the park's budget in any fashion. And it's going to be a neat little buffer between what will eventually be a developed open field play area and the neighborhood, and it should help as a windbreak and also a sound break, possibly. Not sure how much truth there is to trees blocking sound, but it'll be just a neat little buffer area between the park and the neighbors. So that's November 4th, right? You said, Matt?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Update on the big toy. I sent a lot of you photos earlier. That project overall is about 80% complete. The base layer is 100% complete, and the top coat is about 30%. They were really going strong last week with the sun. Now that we're getting into some rainy days, that will delay the project some. We've posted online and also on Facebook that we're hoping to have the park reopened on the 20th. That date could still change depending on how the weather rolls out, but they've been pretty good on on keeping us up to date on time frame and when that should be finished. So if I get a new date from them, I'll obviously let everybody know. And we have officially started our fall leaf blowing and mowing. The leaves are starting to drop, and grass is still growing because it was 70 degrees last week. So we'll be doing that for the next 2 months until winter is officially here. So that's all I got. Yes, Donna.
There was some comment about the filbert trees being, the farmer no longer wanting to lease that property. Is there any kind of plan going forward, thinking about getting rid of those trees now?
We are looking into what it would take to remove those trees completely. And there's, what's that? Chainsaw. Then you have a lot of roots that'll sucker out. Really got to pull the whole thing out.
Yeah, because it'll come right back.
Yes, we're looking into that currently.
Okay, all right, I was just curious.
Not
because-
100% sure how that's gonna play out, but yeah, those trees are. I mean, we've all known it. We've talked about it for 5-6 years now that they're at the end of their life, and they're showing more and more signs of disease and death. So
It looks
this-
awful.
the sooner the better. The big thing is, once they're out, what are we doing with it? And we're not going gangbusters after developing that whole area just yet. So we want to possibly put grass seed in there or something that
Well,
could possibly still be farmed and off of our plate for a couple more years.
Thank you for that information. I know that there have been some discussions about that, thinking that once we get the trees out, that then gives us an opportunity to think about the kinds of things that could go in there, could be used for it now that the area is open to be used.
Yeah,
So I appreciate your
but we're first
input.
focusing on our list here. So, yep.
Any other questions for Robert? Okay, well, we'll skip council liaison since he's not here. Is there any other business? Hearing none, we stand adjourned at 7:24.
Wait, I did have something you want to hear. Oh. You want to hear it, you do want to hear it.
Yeah, let's just talk about it. But
Okay, so I'm just here to let you know, as most of you already know, that the Eclipse event was a huge success. And I'm here to thank all of the staff who were very instrumental in making it successful. I can't tell you exact amount of money yet. I have to report that to the board first. I'm just closing the books now. I want anybody that's out there that still has money that they think should be paid back to them and not done as a donation to the parks, to let me know or let someone on the board know so that I can get those taken care of. City staff did a tremendous amount of work. The police department, the fire department, Clint, everybody, the volunteers, the staff, everybody came together, did a tremendous amount of work in a very short time, did things that people thought were unbelievable. I still can't believe myself what we got accomplished. There is going to be a viable amount of money that will supplant the budgets that we gave out to volunteers who wanted to do work. And we are going to, I think that there is now currently, or will be shortly, an application form on our website for people who are planning to do some kind of work in the parks. Our direction to them would that they come to this meeting, present their ideas to the board, get approval from the city, and once those things are in place, then we will be able to accept their application for funding or assistance in that respect. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that there was some money that would help volunteers go forward doing projects that we would normally have, except we poured it into the skate park. So that's an important, that I thought was an important thing for you to know. The board did vote on that, and they're happy to be able to accomplish that. So that's all the points, yes.
I'd like to mention too, I thought the concert deals went well,
I agreed.
especially the Sunday night one before the Eclipse. That was truly a world-class event.
Everybody goes, what is Clint doing on his violin?
Oh, this guy was
Fabulous.
I mean, when they played Ave Maria.
People
your
cried.
hand drop. It was just incredible. But this guy's played at Carnegie Hall and many different places. And you want me to quit? You get ready to slam the hammer?
He already did.
I thought we were
He
already
already
done.
slammed the hammer once and I interrupted him.
Well, thank you, Clint. I'm glad that really went well for you, but I got other things to do tonight.
You could have left. Yeah, we ended the meeting.
Yeah, I thought we were already done.
We were
We
just
were.
chatting. I thought that's what was going on.
Okay, if you want to chat, we're done.
I did want that